You ever pour a perfect glass of wine and just look at it? The color, the smell, the taste. It's like magic, right? But behind that magic, there's this constant invisible battle being fought. So let's dive into the science that keeps a great wine, well, great. That amazing color, that complex smell, it all feels so alive. And you know what? In a way, it is. A single glass of wine is a whole complex ecosystem, and it's actually teeming with microscopic life. Now, some of that life is totally essential for making the wine, but other parts, they're just waiting for their chance to ruin it. So, what's standing between that perfect sip and a bottle that tastes like, I don't know, vinegar? What's the secret weapon winemakers have been using for centuries to fight off these invisible invaders? Well, the answer is ancient, and, it's actually pretty controversial. Okay, let's meet the main character in our story, the real unsung hero of the wine world, sulfur dioxide, or as we'll call it, SO2. This stuff has been the guardian of wine for literally thousands of years, a silent protector, making sure the wine you drink is exactly what the winemaker wants you to taste. And wow, this quote from our source material, it just nails how critical this is. Without SO2, the entire history of wine, from those ancient Roman jars to the bottle you have at home, would be completely different. It's really that fundamental. So what is it exactly? Well, at its core, SO2 is a pretty simple compound. It's just a gas you get from burning sulfur. Winemakers add it to kill off unwanted yeasts and bacteria and to stop oxygen from making the wine taste stale. It's the bouncer, the bodyguard, and the preservative, all rolled into one. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. Not all the SO2 in a wine is doing the same job. Think of it like a security team. You've got your free SO2. That's the active guard on patrol, the one actually fighting off the microbes. Then there's the combined SO2, which is like the reserve team. It's tied up with other stuff in the wine, just waiting to be called into action. And you gotta remember, it's only that free form that has the real, immediate germ-killing power. And get this, how well that active guard works totally depends on the wine's environment, especially its pH, which is just a measure of acidity. Just look at this chart. In a really acidic wine with a low pH, over 6% of that free SO2 is in its most powerful form. But in a less acidic wine, that number plummets to less than 1%. So a winemaker really needs to know their wine's chemistry to use this stuff right. And our hero here has a whole range of superpowers. It's not just a germ killer. It protects against oxygen, it helps pull color and flavor from grape skins, it even helps make the wine clearer. And maybe most importantly, it's selective. It's way tougher on the bad bacteria than it is on the good yeasts you need for fermentation. It's like the Swiss Army knife for winemakers, for real. But like every hero in a good story, our guy SO2, he's got a dark side. In fact, he's got a few. For all its amazing benefits, if you use too much of it or use it the wrong way, you can create a whole bunch of new problems. So for starters, at high levels, SO2 has this sharp kind of matchstick smell that can just completely kill a wine's beautiful aroma. It can even create these nasty reduction smells, like rotten eggs. Yuck. And beyond just the taste, there are health concerns if the dose is too high, and it can stop other good things from happening in the wine. You see the dilemma, right? The challenge is getting all that protection with none of the problems. And that is where modern science swoops in to save the day. See, winemakers aren't just relying on their ancient hero anymore. They've got a whole backup crew, a team of specialists they can call on to control those microbes. This lets them use SO2 much more strategically and in way smaller amounts. First up, we've got lysozyme. This is a natural enzyme. Yeah, the very same stuff that's in our tears and in egg whites. And it's like a sniper. It's not a broad spectrum killer. It specifically goes after these things called lactic acid bacteria, which can be a huge headache if they get out of control. Then there's chitosan, and this one is fascinating. It's a compound that comes from the shells of things like shrimp and crabs. Here's the cool part. Microbes in wine have a negative electrical charge, but chitosan has a positive charge. So it's literally like a magnet for microbes, attracting them and then zapping them. Pretty cool. And another key player in the toolbox is fumaric acid. You can think of this as the emergency brake. This thing is a super potent organic acid that is amazing at stopping those lactic acid bacteria dead in their tracks. It gives winemakers incredible control over the whole process. So these are all great ways to control the little critters, but they all involve adding something to the wine. So, what if instead of fighting the battle inside the bottle, you could just, kick the enemy off the battlefield entirely? Okay, so take a look. This is who we're really up against. This is the invisible threat. Under a microscope, you can see the yeasts and bacteria that, if you don't keep them in check, can totally transform a wine for the worse. They look pretty harmless, but believe me, they are the source of the whole battle. And boom, here's the physical solution. Modern winemaking uses these incredibly fine filters right before the wine goes into the bottle. Instead of just slowing the microbes down, these high-tech systems act like a microscopic strainer, physically pulling out all the unwanted yeast and bacteria, leaving you with a perfectly clean, stable wine. But hold on, not all filtration is created equal. You've got what's called nominal filtration, which is pretty good. It gets most of the microbes. But then you have absolute filtration, and that's the gold standard. It guarantees it'll remove at least 99% of anything bigger than its tiny pores, which basically sterilizes the wine and makes sure nothing can spoil it later in the bottle. So, you put all this together. What does it mean for the winemaker? It means they've gone from having just one powerful but kind of flawed tool to having this entire high-tech toolbox at their disposal. And here's the real takeaway from all this. The goal isn't to just ditch SO2 entirely. Nope. It's about using it smarter. Modern winemaking is this sophisticated balancing act. It's about combining a tiny, effective dose of SO2 with some of these targeted treatments, and then using that precision filtration at the end as a final guarantee. It's a completely tailored approach for every single batch of wine. And this quote from the source text just perfectly wraps up the modern philosophy. It is all about getting that perfect balance, achieving the maximum protection the wine needs to be great with the absolute minimum of any of those nasty side effects. It really is the art of science, isn't it? Which leaves us with one last big question. With this whole amazing toolbox of modern tech, these targeted enzymes, the microbe magnets, the sterile filtration, does wine's ancient hero, SO2, still have a major role to play? Or is it slowly but surely being pushed into retirement? Definitely something to think about over your next, hopefully perfect glass of wine.